Okay, hello everybody, happy Monday. I wish I could be there with you guys today, but I know that you're in good hands with Mr. Doug. We're going to be talking about volume of a cylinder today. And a cylinder is something that we see a lot in our everyday lives. A cylinder is the same shape as a toilet paper roll, and we have to remember that the bottom and the top both have a circle. So that makes the bottom and the top that both have a circle on a cylinder, and then the sides are just closed in with a rectangle. So we're going to talk about where the formula for volume of a cylinder comes from. So go ahead and write this down on the top right of your notes. So to identify a cylinder, the base and the top part of it will always be a circle, two circles that are identical. To start with finding the volume, which is how much stuff can fill it up basically, we need to find the area of one of the bases. So remember that the area of a circle is pi times the radius squared. To square something, that means that we just take that number and multiply it by itself. And remember that the radius is always halfway across the circle. The diameter is all the way across, but we need the radius. Once you have the area of one of the circles, we just need to figure out basically how many of those circles are stacked up until we get to the very top. So how many circles does it take to fill up the cylinder? Or in other words, find the volume, because volume is, remember, how much stuff it takes to fill up something. So to figure out how many circles would fill up the cylinder, we just have to multiply that area of the circle, which is the base, times the height. So our formula for volume of a cylinder is pi times the radius squared, which is the area of that circle, times the height. And we can use this to find every cylinder's volume. So let's go ahead and start to practice this. On number 1, notice that our cylinder is flipped on its side, and our base will always be a circle. The bottom and the top will always be a circle. The first thing that we should find is our radius. Remember, radius is halfway across the circle, and diameter is all the way across. In this case, our radius is 11 centimeters. To find the volume, we're going to multiply pi times the radius squared times the height, which always is what connects the bottom circle to the top circle. So the height in this case is 7 centimeters. Now when we expand this out, I won't have you do this for every example, but we are going to do this for the first few together. We would have pi times 11 centimeters squared, which is just 11 centimeters multiplied by itself, times 7 centimeters. So on your decimals graphing calculator, go ahead and multiply out pi times 11 squared, which is 121, times 7. And you should get 2,660.9. Now for this to be correct, we have to have our units. So let's think about what units we would use. Notice that we are multiplying centimeters by itself 3 times. And instead of writing centimeters times centimeters times centimeters, which would get old real quick, we can just write that with an exponent and recall that when we multiply something by itself, the same thing by itself 3 times, we can write that as centimeters to the 3rd power. And that would be our volume. Remember that volume is always cubed. Think of it as a 3D object, so we have to have it cubed. Okay, moving on to number 2. Go ahead and write down your formula for volume. You will need to have this memorized because this formula is not given to you on iLearn. It was last year, but as 8th graders, they expect for you to have this formula memorized. Remember, radius is halfway across the circle, diameter is all the way across, and we need the radius, which in this case is 6 yards, and the height, which connects the base with the top, is 12 yards. That's all we need. So now we're going to plug this in. So we have pi times 6 for the radius squared times the height, which is 12. Notice that I did not write down my units when I plugged in my numbers, and we still have to remember to put them on at the end, but we don't have to write the units every single time, and units is just what we measure in. So on your calculator, go ahead and multiply pi times 6 squared, so 36, times 12. That should give you the number 1,357.2 yards cubed. We have to remember our units. Okay, and that's our volume of that cylinder. So in other words, it would take that much amount of fluid to fill up the inside of the cylinder. All right, we're on to our last 2. Now on number 3, look carefully. This is a little bit tricky. Remember, we need the we need the radius. That's what I meant to say. So let's go ahead and write down our formula, which is volume equals pi times the radius squared times the height. Diameter is all the way across. That's actually what they gave us. But we need the radius, which is half of the diameter. So think, what's half of 4? Yep, 2 yards, that's our radius. And then our height, which just connects the bottom circle with the top circle, is 11 yards. And we have everything that we need to find our volume. When I rewrite the formula, I've got pi times our radius, so times 2 squared, times the height, which is 11. And when I plug this into my Desmos calculator, I'll let you guys do that on your own. We should get 138, rounding to the 10th place, 0.2 yards cubed. And then that is our volume. Remember that if they gave you the diameter, which is the distance all the way across the circle, we must have the radius, which is halfway across, because that is what gives us our area of that circle. Okay, last one on this page. So if you look carefully, they have given us our radius. Remember, diameter is all the way across, radius is halfway across, and we need the radius. And our radius is 2 miles. Our height, which remember connects the bottom with the top, is 3 miles. So when we plug this into our formula for volume, we have pi times the radius squared times the height. When we plug that into our calculator, we have pi times 2 squared, which is the same as 4, times 3, which would give us a volume of 37.7 when we round to the 10th place miles cubed. All right, guys, nicely done. Please make sure that you have your front side of your notes filled out. We are going to do a few more examples on the back, and then you'll be ready for your assignment.